You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, 3rd day of November, 2025. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. Michael is out today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. He had an uncle who passed, so he's gone to go to the funeral and visit with the family. So please keep him and his family in your prayers. He will return to the live training room Thursday morning at 9:27 a.m. Eastern. Now, I already thanked you for tuning in. I hope you had a great weekend. This afternoon broadcast, which is different from the live training room broadcast. Getting into the live training room, you got to be a member or taking your 1-week free trial. If you have not taken your 1-week free trial, go to mytradingiq.com. At the very top of the page, there's a purple button. Click it, fill out the form, and we'll get your indicators up and indicating Thursday when Michael returns, probably Wednesday night. And then your trial will officially run from Thursday all the way through next Wednesday. The weekends don't count against you. There's no credit card required. And you're not just gaining access to the live training room 2 hours a day, but you also have access to everything else we do the other 22 hours of the day. We go to work at 6 p.m. Eastern Sunday night, and we literally work around the clock till Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. When the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says noon broadcast. Click that link, fill out that 30-second registration form, and you're done. What happens going forward is every trading day you get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you into our platform. The benefit of doing it that way is you immediately have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there will be days you're out of the office, away from your desktop, but you still want to join live. And there'll be days when you're busy, you can't join live, but you do want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. But all you have to remember is youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there are over 2,900 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. youtube.com/CFRN. On the left side of the screen, you see our normal afternoon schedule, and everything will go according to plans until we get to the top of the hour where Michael normally joins us for a recap of the live training room. We won't be having that part today, tomorrow, or Wednesday, but again, on Thursday, he'll be back in the saddle. He'll be in the live training room, and he'll be here for the afternoon broadcast on Thursday. So, we're going to dive right into where we normally start, our daily devotional. And the topic of the devotional that we're on right now, learning to share your faith. I think it's possibly one of the most important devotionals that we've had. It's almost a month in length. And sharing your faith, that has eternal consequences. Not for you, but for other people. A lot of people say, okay, I'm saved, I'm good, I got my ticket. Now, I'm done. Oh no, that's just the beginning. First, you're a believer. Then you learn to share your beliefs. And many people who've been Christians for decades still find it difficult in a secular setting to share their faith with others. Oh, you don't want to offend anybody. Well, there's nothing offensive about a question, right? So simply, hey man, I'm curious, where are you spiritually? And then shut up. People love to talk about themselves, so just let them tell you their story. Don't interrupt, just listen. Maybe they're an atheist. Maybe they used to call themselves a Christian, but they got hurt by the church, and now they don't know who they are. Maybe they're a Buddhist. Maybe they're a Muslim. Okay? But listen carefully as they share their story. Again, don't interrupt them. Let them finish. Because that's going to leave you with an open door to share your faith. I mean, when you meet somebody on the street and say, hey, how you doing? Maybe not in New York City, but in most places, that person will go, okay, how you doing? Right? It's just sort of a reflexive kind of thing. So when you ask them where they are spiritually and they tell you, then it's just kind of natural for them to say, why? What do you believe? Oh, so glad you asked. And so that's what the purpose of this whole devotional, this 28-day devotional, learning to share your faith. Today's scripture is Colossians 4, verses 2 through 4. And I'm going to share it with you from the Message translation. Pray diligently. Stay alert. With your eyes wide open in gratitude. Don't forget to pray for us, that God will open doors for telling the mystery of Christ. Even while I'm locked up in this jail, pray that every time I open my mouth, I'll be able to make Christ plain as day to them. Again, that was Colossians 4, 2 through 4. And Paul had quite a captive audience because he always had 2 guards chained to him. I bet they got saved. All right, today's topic, open doors. Do you ever wonder why you don't have more opportunities to engage in significant spiritual conversations? Maybe it's because you've forgotten to knock. It begins with prayer. God opens the door of opportunity for you to enter into other people's spiritual journeys. Unless God in His grace was at work in that person's life, the door of the heart would remain closed. The Apostle Paul understood this. He prayed and enlisted others to pray that God would open doors for his message. God did so in many cities, such as Troas, 2 Corinthians 2, and with many individuals such as Lydia, Acts 16:14. The more we pray for open doors, the more opportunities we can expect. And nothing is more exciting than to enter into the life journey of a friend or acquaintance when God has been at work opening the door and preparing the heart. Open doors are the product of answered prayers. I encourage you, on a 3x5 card, write a prayer for God to open conversational doors this week so that you can enter spiritual journeys and guide others to Christ. Let's pray. Lord, help us to be steadfast in prayer, watching with gratitude for all you've done. Open doors for your word through us so that we may share Christ with clarity, courage, and compassion. Give us discernment in every opportunity and boldness to speak truth in love. In Jesus' name, we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen and happy Monday. No, that's not an oxymoron. Sometimes it actually happens. States are suing Trump admin over rule limiting student loan forgiveness for public servants. And that guy's been sued more times than anybody, I think, on planet Earth. So it would seem. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. We'll start in the U.S. with the cash markets or the indices, as we do each day. Currently, the Dow is down 153 points. NASDAQ, on the other hand, is up 147. And there's a reason for that, and I'll be sharing that reason with you here shortly. Before we go to the charts, S&P 500 is up 15. The Russell 2000, our man in the street, though, is down 17. So we have the dreaded mixed markets. As futures traders, we like to see the four major indices all the same color. Doesn't matter if they're all red or all green. Because as futures traders, you can be long, short, long again, all in the same hour. That's what the chart in front of you is telling you to do. But when you have mixed markets, as we have today, two red, two green, it's kind of a bit of tug of war. And it's on those days that you tend to get less follow through on your trades. And we saw that this morning. We saw evidence of that this morning in the live training room. In the commodity basket, crude oil up a quarter, trading 61.23 last. Gold up $21.60, trading 40.18 last. Silver down a penny, trading 48.15 last. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei posted a gain of 1,085 points, well over 2%. Shanghai gained 21. The Hang Seng gained 251, which is almost 1%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 15, the DAX up 174, CAC down 11. So we had a green day in Asia. It was a mixed day for the UK. And at the moment, it is a mixed Radio Monday here in the US of A. Turning to global news, President Donald Trump has threatened to end all aid to Nigeria. He did this Saturday and ordered the Pentagon to prepare for possible military action. The warning comes as Trump accuses the country of failing to protect its Christian population. Since 2009, Islamist insurgency group Boko Haram has killed more than 35,000 civilians, largely in the country's Muslim-majority north. An ISIS-affiliated breakaway group has killed thousands more. While it is not publicly known what percentage of the group's victims are Christian, a 2012 estimate put the figure at 1/3. In 2020, the Trump administration designated Nigeria a country of concern over religious freedom violations, a decision that the Biden administration reversed. Now, come on, man. Why would he reverse that? I can't think of a good reason. That's why I ask. Well, Trump redesignated Nigeria last week as the group continues to carry out attacks from its base in the Lake Chad region. The U.S. historically gives roughly $1 billion of your tax dollars to Nigeria. And Trump is basically saying, if you don't stop killing Christians, I'm going to turn off the spigot. Yesterday marked 25 years of a continuous human presence in space, including at least one U.S. citizen. President Ronald Reagan commissioned the project that would become the International Space Station in 1984. The idea of living in space dates back further, with author Edward Everett Hale imagining a fictional International Space Station in his 1869 tale, The Brick Moon. Canada, Japan, Europe, and ultimately Russia joined the project. On November 2nd of 2000, the Expedition 1 crew became the first group to reside on the International Space Station. Today, the station is the largest space vehicle ever built, as large as a football field, including solar arrays with a habitable volume larger than a 6-bedroom house. More than 280 people from 27 countries have visited the space station, typically to conduct scientific experiments in 6-month rotations. The space station will be deorbited in early 2031 and driven into the Pacific Ocean. Wow. And for you sports fans, the LA Dodgers won the World Series Saturday night, topping the Toronto Blue Jays 5-4 in a come-from-behind Game 7 victory that went extra innings. The title is the second in a row for the Dodgers, the first repeat championships since 2000. 2 outs from their first title since 1993, the 9th inning was a heartbreaker for Toronto. The Blue Jays gave up the game-tying home run and then failed to score with the bases loaded, including a force out at home plate and a deep ball caught by Dodgers center fielder Andy Pages, despite colliding with a teammate. The Dodgers pitcher, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, was named World Series Most Valuable Player, holding Toronto scoreless over the last 8 outs Saturday night after throwing almost 100 pitches in Friday's Game 6. Los Angeles immediately opened as the favorite to win the 2026 championship. Wow, 3 in a row, that would be quite the big deal. And you probably know somebody in your life back in the day who had a gambling problem. Whether it was the horse track or the dog track or a bookie or maybe a friendly card game. Who lost it all? I have 2 friends that fit that profile. But now with electronic online betting, I mean, used to be you could just bet on like who's going to win or lose or who's going to cover the spread or that kind of thing. Now, right up until the quarterback throws the football, you can make a bet on whether it's going to get caught, not caught, fumbled. I mean, it's unbelievable. And anyone who has been born with an inherited addictive type personality, that's a real thing, by the way. Watch them. Watch out for them. Okay? Because used to, I guess you could call your bookie, on the phone when nobody was around. But, making a trip to the casino or to the dog track or to the horse track, I mean, your family members knew you were leaving the house to go somewhere to do something. But now your boss can look at you and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" "I'm working." Or your wife can open your office door at home and go, "What are you doing?" "I'm working." When in fact, you're up to your eyeballs in debt. So, just a cautionary tale. Amazon stock jumped roughly 5% today after the company announced a $38 billion deal with OpenAI for the ChatGPT developer to access hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA's AI chips through its cloud computing infrastructure. Under the partnership, OpenAI will run its AI workloads on NVIDIA's GPUs, that's graphics processing units, housed within Amazon's AI servers. The company said OpenAI would immediately start using AI infrastructure provided by Amazon's cloud segment, Amazon Web Services. And I told you this last week. That's where Amazon makes 90% of their profit, in the cloud. All these packages coming back and forth, door to door. That business, that part of their business model is just not as profitable as you might think. Under the partnership, OpenAI will immediately start using AI infrastructure. The move is just the latest in OpenAI's string of deals with cloud providers and chip makers. OpenAI also has a $300 billion deal with Oracle and agreements with AI data center provider CoreWeave, that's CRWV, worth more than $22 billion. The AI developer recently announced agreements with Broadcom, AMD, and NVIDIA. Amazon's up $12 on the session, almost 5%. But things aren't rosy everywhere. Stocks turned mixed this morning as Wall Street looked to carry its momentum into the first trading session of the month, with big tech names like Amazon and NVIDIA leading the way higher. But the other stocks, well, not so much. Not so much. I gave you the numbers from around the world. The government shutdown is poised to become the longest in U.S. history this week as economic pain continues to mount. It was the worst weekend yet at airports. Meanwhile, clarity is expected later today on whether the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, will continue to receive funding. President Trump isn't signaling he's prepared to offer any compromises to end the shutdown, with the stoppage set to tie the 35-day record for the longest shutdown in history. That happens tomorrow. Multiple comments from the president over the weekend suggested a continued hard line from the White House. He told CBS 60 Minutes in an interview that aired Sunday he won't be extorted by Democrats, and said his only plan to end the shutdown is we keep voting. That strategy has led to the Democrats failing to reopen the government 13 times. The president also reiterated his push to Republican leaders to change Senate rules and scrap the filibuster. According to reporters on Sunday evening, that the best way to fund SNAP is for Democrats to capitulate. I mean, come on, man. We got the House, we got the Senate, we got the Oval Office. Now the Republicans, they just need to sign. Government's open, and then we can start worrying ourselves about the next shutdown. These SNAP benefits are received by roughly 1 in 8 Americans, with the economic and human cost of a cutoff likely to mount quickly. 2 federal judges have told the Trump administration to continue funding the program and ask for an update on progress by today. Also last week, air traffic controllers missed their first full paycheck on Tuesday as flight interruptions continue to spread. The delays continued over the weekend in part because of a reported surge in controllers calling out on Halloween. Democrats, meanwhile, are focused on another recent deadline this past weekend, which they hope will increase the political pressure. Saturday was the beginning of an open enrollment period for healthcare programs run by the Affordable Care Act exchanges. Premium increases there, with Democrats looking to extend enhanced government subsidies for those plans are at the heart of the impasse, as some premiums are set to double next year. Well, Schumer and his gang, history's not going to remember this well or fondly. Big tech firms' increasing investments in artificial intelligence show that even if the stock market is in a bubble, and I think it is, they say equities still have room to run before it bursts. Last week, Amazon, Alphabet, and Meta hiked their capital expenditure forecast for their 2025 fiscal years, while Microsoft reported higher than expected spending for the first quarter of its 2026 fiscal year. So, the AI trade may be the trade of the century or history. Microsoft said Monday it will be shipping NVIDIA's most advanced artificial intelligence chips to the United Arab Emirates as part of a deal approved by the U.S. Commerce Department. The Redmond, Washington software giant said licenses approved in September under stringent safeguards enable it to ship more than 60,000 NVIDIA chips, including the California chipmaker's advanced GB300. That stands for Grace Blackwell, GB300. for use in data centers in the Middle Eastern country. The agreement appeared to contradict President Donald Trump's remarks in a 60 Minutes interview aired Sunday that such chips would not be exported outside the U.S. Well, we should just probably ask Rosie. She knows the answer to everything. Pony AI. You heard of them? I hadn't till now. Pony AI, which trades under the symbol Pony, P-O-N-Y, raised 6.71 billion Hong Kong dollars, which is 863 million US dollars, in its Hong Kong listing, pricing shares at 139 Hong Kong dollars each. The company sold 42 million shares in the base offering and exercised the option to sell an additional 6.3 million, according to a filing today, confirming an earlier Bloomberg News report. Price represents a discount of slightly over 4% to its Friday close of $18.68 per American Depository Receipt on the NASDAQ. The robotaxi firm's listing has attracted ride-hailing giant Uber Technologies, which was in talks to invest about $100 million in the share sale. Pony AI went public in the U.S. just last year, shortly after rival autonomous driving firm WeRide made its U.S. debut. From Reuters, technology licensing company ADEA, which is ADEA, that's the symbol, filed 2 lawsuits against AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, in Texas federal court today for allegedly infringing 10 patents related to semiconductor innovations. For those lawsuits, they follow the money, don't they? The lawsuit said several models of AMD processors used in desktops, laptops, and servers violate ADEA's patent rights and inventions for improved semiconductor manufacturing. Spokespeople for AMD did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the complaints. ADEA's CEO said that AMD's use of its technology has greatly contributed to their success as a market leader, and that ADEA would be open to a fair and reasonable arrangement that reflects the value of their intellectual property. Guess they'll work out a deal. Well, if you're looking for a Santa Claus rally, leave Target out of the picture. Santa has already left Target a gigantic piece of black coal for its holiday quarter. Target stock hit a 52-week low of $85.53 on October 10th, with only a modest rally since, while broader markets continue to push to record highs. The stock is down 31% year-to-date, badly lagging the S&P 500's 16% gain and rival Walmart's 12% increase. The stock has tanked 41% from its all-time high on November 18th of 2024. I'm not a Target guy, for reasons I won't go into. Mortgage rates have been gradually decreasing, and according to Freddie Mac, they've decreased for 4 straight weeks. The Federal Reserve also just cut the federal funds rate for the 2nd month in a row. These factors may leave you wondering, will another Fed rate cut lead to even lower mortgage rates? And does that mean it's a good time to buy a house? I don't know. Okay, Trump's breaking out the big news. After months of declining to weigh in, President Trump has revealed his preferred candidate in the New York City mayoral race. If it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, Trump told CBS, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you. New Yorkers will make that choice between communist Zoran Mamdani. Now, if you take that last name, Mamdani, and if you play with the letters, it spells, I am a madman. I know you got to use a couple of letters twice, but just think about it. Mamdani, I am a madman. Huh. Yeah, he is. It's unbelievable. So anyway, New Yorkers will make the choice between Mamdani and Cuomo on Tuesday. Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa also remains in the race, just to aggravate folks. Mamdani currently holds at a 13.7 point lead over Cuomo, according to Real Clear Politics polling average. Trump said he will withhold funding from New York if Mamdani becomes mayor. It's going to be hard for me as the president to give money to New York, because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money that you're sending there. Well said. Last month, Trump told the Daily Signal that Cuomo had a chance of defeating Mamdani if Sliwa dropped out, but the president maintained that he was not ready to get involved and put any pressure on Sliwa. Now, it was either back in the 80s or 90s, I'm thinking 80s. Sliwa, as a younger man, he had an army of fellas who wore these little red beret. No, you're thinking raspberry beret from Prince. No, they wore red berets, and they voluntarily patrolled the streets of New York to keep New Yorkers safe. So, I'm sorry that he doesn't have a chance of winning, but he's staying in. Speaking of staying in, New York Attorney General Letitia James is fighting a federal criminal probe over alleged selective enforcement in cases she brought against President Donald Trump's business and the National Rifle Association, according to court documents unsealed Friday. Now, you know she's already being sued for the mortgage fraud thing. James' effort to block subpoenas issued by the Department of Justice touches on matters of national concern, with implications that stretch well beyond this action, according to Judge Schofield, an Obama appointee. She wrote this in her order, making the filings public Friday. Unsealing this action is not only permissible, but compel, the judge wrote. One simple fact drives this conclusion. The information at issue is not a secret. In August of 25, it was widely reported that acting U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of New York, John A. Sarcone III, issued subpoenas related to James' civil fraud case against Trump and his company, along with her case against the National Rifle Association. James was indicted in October in a separate mortgage fraud probe in Virginia, where she faces 2 charges for alleged bank fraud and false statements to a financial institution. James' opposition to the DOJ's subpoenas centers on alleged retaliation by the executive branch. Now, this is from the woman. This is so rich. Her whole platform, which she ran for the office she has right now, destroy Trump. That was her whole platform. Elect me, I'll destroy Trump. And oh, did she try? Oh, she tried. It didn't work out so well. And if anybody knows anything about lawfare, which is what she's accusing the president of, yeah, she should read her own memoir. In the subculture of the vibe-driven new right that suffuses much of MAGA world in the northeastern corridor, one of the commonplaces is the assurance that whatever the putative obstacle at hand, you can just do things. It's an invocation at once simple and powerful, elevating solutions perennially through unsolvable immigration, war, crime into the realm of the achievable. It's not a denial of complexity, but it is a denial of complexity's barrier. Turns out the one big thing that needs doing is typically a thing you can do. Just like when Joe Biden said it was not possible to close the border. Have you checked the border numbers lately? Trump said he would do it on day one. Promises made, promises kept. I mean, all he had to do was close the border. That's what Trump did. Didn't have to build any walls. He didn't. It was just say, that's it, no more. And people that were making that caravan towards the U.S. border, they turned around and went back home. Democrats are fighting so ferociously to keep the federal government closed, it's as if they were trying to kill a GOP-sponsored scheme to exempt the top 1% from income tax. Au contraire, congressional Republicans uncharacteristically are trying to keep Biden-era federal spending cruising on autopilot with neither reductions nor reforms. But that's not good enough for House Democrat Chief Hakeem Jeffries or Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer. Jeffries plus 209 of 211 House Democrats who voted said nay to the GOP's clean, no strings attached continuing resolution on September 19th. Among the 218 House Republicans who voted, 216 said yay. So, who owns this shutdown? You. Two people have been charged in connection with an alleged terrorist plot over the Halloween weekend in Michigan. FBI Director Kash Patel announced the foiled plot last week. Patel said 5 people were arrested in connection with a terror plot, but as of Monday, the Department of Justice has only charged 2 individuals. According to court documents, one of the people charged purchased 1,600 rounds of ammunition to be used in AR-15 style rifles during the attack. Our newly unsealed complaint reveals a major ISIS-linked terror plot with multiple subjects arrested in the Eastern District of Michigan targeting the United States, according to Attorney General Pam Bondi. According to the complaint, subjects had multiple AR-15 rifles, tactical gear, and a detailed plan to carry out an attack on American soil. Well, score 1 for the good guys. Now, I bet you didn't know this, but today is National Sandwich Day. I'm serious. Few foods are as quick, portable, and filling as a sandwich. And today is National Sandwich Day. It falls on the birthday of John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, who is often credited as the inventor of the sandwich. Although the concept of using bread to sandwich a filling predates Montagu, Montagu was said to be so engrossed with his card game that he wanted something he could eat with his hands at the card table. So he requested roast beef between 2 slices of bread, and the sandwich was born. Now, whether you like your sandwich stacked tall with meat, packed with crunchy fresh veggies, or ooey gooey cheesy stuff. Restaurants across the nation are celebrating Sandwich Day. Arby's has the meats, and it also has a sandwich discount for National Sandwich Day. Rewards members can redeem an Arby's Classic Beef and Cheddar sandwich for 50% off today for the purchase of $10 or more. Capriotti's, founded in Delaware in '76. If you use their app to buy a turkey sub, you'll get the second one for 50% off. Firehouse Subs is giving away free medium subs. Order $15 or more via Firehouse Subs app today. Free sub options include the hook and ladder, the Firehouse, meatball, the smoked turkey, or the Italian. And Jersey Mike, they got nothing. Jimmy John's, you can get a pickle witch for 50% off. I can't imagine they even can give those things away. And who else do we have? Popeyes, the Louisiana Fried Chicken chain, is offering a free classic spicy or smoking Rojo chicken sandwich through November 9th with a purchase of $10 or more. Schlotzsky's, if you're a rewards member, you can get the $5 medium sandwich. And Subway, forget $5 footlongs. Subway is offering $1 footlongs on National Sandwich Day. Oh, that's the best deal of all. To redeem MVP rewards members, I guess that means you got to download their app or something, can buy a footlong and get another for just $1 using the promo code FOOTLONGFAN. That's a pretty good deal. Okay. Well, enough of that. Let's go to the local news. What do you say? Of course, I'm talking about Logic 247. As soon as I can find it here. There it is. Okay. Logic 247. We ended up last week with 13% stopped out. I think it was. But we're now in week 379. Over the last 379 weeks, we've issued over 20,800 individual handcrafted alerts. We're approaching 20,900. And what we've averaged over the last 379 weeks is 20% or less of the logic alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Since the markets opened last night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we issued a total of 15 alerts. And Valerie did the recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. So we're still waiting on the outcome of 9. It gave us 6 actionable alerts, of which 1, or 17%, would have been stopped out. Again, based on simple market structure and the simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Now, the logic alerts are designed to help you learn how to read a chart. If you're going to trade for a living, you got to be able to read the chart. That means you got to know where to expect potential resistance, where to expect potential support. And that comes from reading the chart. Okay? It's not a parlor trick, it's not a magic act. It's reading, which is fundamental. Now, if you never trade a Logic 247 alert, I beseech you, my brother, at least use them to learn how to read the chart. Okay, it's simply a matter of bringing up the alert, bringing up the chart, and drawing horizontal lines at the entry price, the initial target, the additional targets, and then the final trade to target is always the weekly trading zone above on a long or the weekly trading zone below on a short. The logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. Now, long before we had a Logic 247, and by the way, 379 weeks, that's over 7 years. Before we had Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. And they're different. Different how? Different in a lot of ways. But for the purpose of this discussion, I'll just point out that they don't come out around the clock. They're typically posted as a static report 5 minutes ahead of the Globex open, as they were last night. The Monday session we're in right now began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. All of our traders had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. Now, we're talking the ES, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. I always put out a note, or try to, in the discussion group that says the CTAs are scheduled for 5:55 p.m. Eastern. Yesterday, I added a caveat. I said, in the event there are any huge gaps, I will reissue for those particular markets. And the only market that had a huge gap that required me to reissue the CTA was crude oil. I had originally put the long target at 61.20, but it gapped right up there. So I then changed it to 61.50. Okay. So again, as we go through the individual markets one by one, just remember, as you see these targets drawn on the chart, all of our traders and trial members had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. And this one was 4 minutes after the market opened. Okay. So now, with that out of the way, we can actually go to the chart. Oh, we lost our feed to the YouTube. Did it get reconnected? Yep, I think it did. All right. Now, I'll see if it's still connected when I bring up the chart. Did the chart come up? Oh, come on, chart. Yep, there it is. Okay. All right, so we're still cooking on YouTube. All right. Now, we always start with the S&P, the bellwether of the indices. Now, this is an island top, okay? What I was kind of hoping for last night was a gap lower open. In other words, when the market opened, I was hoping it would gap down and close the gap that we've had over a week now. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and now Sunday, Monday. Because if that had happened, we would then have an island top. I'm guessing with the black step line crossing blue and climbing, we're going to see lower prices, although we've not taken out Friday's low. Now, I pointed it out in the live training room this morning that the first area we should look for support, of course, now it's the low of today, then the low of Friday, and then the high of, the high of Friday a week ago, and then closing the gap at the 62% fib extension. So we got resistance overhead, we've tagged that. So we have what's called an inside day. That means we've not taken out Friday's high, and so far we've not taken out Friday's low. Okay. Now, price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's called the BBC, this line right here. price always reverts to the mean. I don't care what you trade. I don't care how you trade it. Price always reverts to the mean. It's just how markets work. Back here, when price got below the green line, we became bearish. And for good reason. Now, price reverted to the mean and the pullback held. And then this pullback held. And then this pullback held. Until April 24th, we traded through. But it wasn't until the 25th when we had a candle open and close above the BBC that we could officially say we've gone from bearish to bullish. And as you can see, price reverts to the mean, reverts to the mean, reverts to the mean. And as you can see, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Sometimes it spikes it real good, but as long as the candles are touching, it holds. That means it held. It held. It held. It held. This was a real phenomenon. We had a 6-day hold. Every one of these 6 candles is touching the BBC. Now, when it was happening, it might have been hard to go, man, is that really holding? Huh. Well, look what happened. On the 7th day, we ran up to the 50% fib extension. And then the next day, what did we do? Price reverted to the mean. It pulled back to the BBC and the pullback held. And we had an up day, another up day, and that was a Friday. And that was a Sunday night gap higher open that still has not closed. And I'm telling you, that is very, very unusual in the world of futures and indices. Typically, the only time you even see a gap higher open is on Sunday night, because futures trade around the clock. With stocks, you see gaps every day, because when the stock market closes here in the US at 4 p.m. Eastern, well, about 8 p.m. Eastern, it opens in Asia. And so they're trading stocks. And then at 3 a.m. Eastern, London opens, and they're trading stocks. So when Wall Street finally reopens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, that gap up or gap down is a reflection of what the Asian and European traders did with that particular stock overnight. That's why Sunday night, after the market's been closed a day and a half, that we typically see these kind of gaps. Okay? Now you understand, right? Okay. All right, so we know where resistance is, times 2. Step line is crossing blue and climbing. When the step line crosses blue and climbing, like it did right here, you typically get a retracement back to the BBC. Right here, retracement back to the BBC. Right here, step line crosses, pull back to the BBC. Right here, step line crosses, pull back to the BBC. It happens again and again and again. So, also, when the black step line and blue and climbing get directly above price, they become potential resistance. And that's resistance times 2. So where's support? Support's at the low of today and the low of Friday. And then it's clear water all the way down to the high of Friday a week ago. See that? Right there. Okay. Okay, all alerts, both the Logic 247 alerts and the Concierge Trade alerts, they're all created on a 30-minute chart. What's magic about 30 minutes? Nothing. It's just the time frame I chose years ago, and they say if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I didn't. Now we had a slightly higher gap open. The vertical lines, by the way, separate today, Monday. Back over here is Friday. Okay, and these are last week's weekly trading zones. The new weekly trading zones come out Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. But when I send out alerts Sunday night, we're still working off the previous week's zones. But once the new zones come out Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern, every alert I put out this week will reflect the new zones. Okay, so on tomorrow's broadcast, you'll see this week's zones on my chart. But all of our traders and even trial members got them this morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. So we gapped above. Now we had a leg Friday and a retracement. Okay. And we consolidated right below that weekly trading zone. So with the gap higher open last night, if you get a little bit above that BBC there, you know what? Let's say you waited for this candle, the second 30-minute candle last night. That opened at 68.88 and a quarter. Let's just call it 68.89. And from 89, it ran to 98 and a half. So that was a 9-point move. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. Now, why did price stop right there? It's very simple. Just look at Friday. Okay? The initial move last night was unable to take out that high right there from Friday. So why did I put the target up here? That's where blue turned to red. Okay? So, market runs into resistance, it's going to go look for support or revert to the mean. So we consolidated along the BBC for quite a few hours, and then we dropped down to the zone right ahead of the London Open. Okay? So London Open's here. Now this zone is 68.75/76, but again, these are last week's zones, but that's what we use for Sunday night alerts. We get back above the BBC. This candle opens at, we'll call it 88. And it runs up 13 points. Still hasn't hit the long target. But that resistance is right here. Okay? So resistance sends the market looking for support. Remember, the pullback holds more often than not. And then, bang. Take out the long target by just a little bit. Okay? Look at the horizontal line on my chart. See those two candles? Now look left. Okay? What's important is that we failed to take out this high. We got here, right? But we failed to take out this high. That's a sign of weakness. That sign of weakness took us, this was the 9:30 opening candle on Wall Street, took us all the way down to the weekly zone. Now when price encounters a weekly zone, one of three things happens. 70% of the times consolidation, 20% of the times rejection, 10% of the time the slice. When price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support till proven otherwise. When price rallies up to a weekly zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. So this was the 9:30 candle. Then we had some news at 10 o'clock giving us another red candle. And then the 10:30 candle opened here and it dropped right to the short target and the zone. This zone is 68.48/49 and the target was 49 based off simple market structure, and we hit it to the tick. Now support is always going to send the market looking for resistance, which it found at the zone for a minute, and it popped up to the BBC Pullback held. We get a slight retracement. Now look what's happened. We've gotten back above the BBC. Okay. So where should we expect resistance? Well, right here, 68.97. See where blue turned to red? 68.97. That's potential resistance. Of course, the long target, and then the high of the day. Now this is, you see how red and falling has gotten directly below price? When that happens, the step line and red and falling are now potential support. If this thing keeps cooking and can take out these highs, which you should think of as resistance, then where's your next resistance? These highs right here from Friday. And if you scrunch it up, where would your next high be? Now notice these highs. You see these highs across here, we took those out by just a little bit. But just a little bit should always concern you. When you take out a previous high by just a little bit and quickly reverse, we hit the zone, support, bounce back to the BBC, the pullback held, and that sent us down to the next zone. This one, 48/49. Okay. Then we got a little rally into the close, and we did close Friday with a green candle, but we were below the BBC, but we did have blue and climbing. Now, there's always the question of, we know the pullback holds more often than not, like here, 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 okay? And when it pulls back from the other way, here, 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 all right? Okay. But when you've got a lot of blue and climbing chasing price, that's a good indication that this might be the time price trades through the BBC. Because even though the pullback holds more often than not, we know eventually it's going to trade through. And so these highs, again, were a reflection of this high from Friday. And I've already explained everything else to you. Okay? So be sure to watch this area right here. 68.97. Cautious, 96. That's potential resistance. Then 904. Then 907. And 915. If we run out of steam and things start to drop, well, obviously, you got potential support at the step line, at red and falling, last week's zone, short target. It all gets pretty simple once you know how to read the chart. Okay? And that's what the Logic 247 alerts will teach you how to do. So on the Dow, and remember, all of our traders had these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. This was the opening candle last night. We ran into the weekly trading zone overhead at 855/860. Resistance sends us to support. We consolidated at the BBC. And then right here was a wild card. You see this little red candle? It opened and closed below the BBC. That would make you think, well, we're probably going to get lower prices. And then it did a fast reversal. Okay. This is the London Open. Okay. So, but we failed to take out the early evening highs. Sign of weakness. So we get back below the BBC, the pullback holds, and we drop through this zone all the way. Oh, we missed a short target by not much, by 5 ticks. Okay. Then we get a little bounce. And then down we go to the next zone. Now remember, these are the zones that were published. Not this morning, but last Monday morning. This is the carryover power of the zones. Usually by Tuesday, the new zones have taken over. But you should always keep, even though you put the new zones on your chart first thing Monday morning, keep a list somewhere, burn it out, whatever, of last week's zones. Because as you can see, they still work. Resistance at the zone, support at the zone. Now the step line has crossed red and falling, so what do we expect? A retracement to the BBC. This is resistance times 2. Pull back to the BBC holds more often than not. And of course, when price rallies up to a zone, even though it's last week's zone, we expect that to be resistance. So this resistance times 2. And if it all comes unwound and undone, and red and falling is directly below price, so is the black step line. So both of those are potential support. If we get below red and falling, then this would be a beautiful trade, 47,400 down to 47,300. That's a 100-point trade from 400 to 300. You only need 20 points to get your goal for the day. The Russell. Okay. This was the opening candle last night. It ran right up to the zone and found resistance. And as we consolidated, as we do 70% of the time at the zone, the step line crossed. So now we expect a retracement to the BBC. And that's what we got. And there again is that one little oddball candle. It opened and closed below the BBC, but the market reversed. Okay. Remember, out of 20,000, over 20,800 Logic 247 alerts, we've averaged on a weekly basis 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out. So if you're spending money, time or treasure, chasing that holy grail where you never get stopped out again, let me save you some time and save you some money. It does not exist. It cannot exist. There's too many factors. I'm going to leave it at that. I went into a very long spiel last week on it. No algorithm, no AI, not nothing, not no way, not no how can predict the future with 100% accuracy. It can't. There's too many factors involved. So, for the zone, that represents resistance. Then we get below the BBC, the pullback holds, and we come down and we spike the zone real good. We almost make it to the short target, but look where that candle closes. Now that's the 9:30 opening candle on Wall Street. We closed right at the zone. And then the next candle took us all the way down to and through the target. And if you scroll left, you can figure out why. Support sends us to resistance. So the zone represents potential resistance. We're consolidating there. And the BBC right overhead, that represents resistance. If we continue to consolidate sideways, then the BBC, the green line, is going to drop. There's potential support at the black step line. There's potential support at red and falling because they're now both directly underpriced. See, on the way down, they were running parallel. But once it crosses, once that step line crosses red and falling, you should always look for a retracement to the BBC. Just like when on the way up here. See how they're running parallel? But once it crosses, bang, right back to the BBC. The NQ. We've published these zones for almost 16 years. December 14th of this year will mark 16 years. Every week. You know what's changed? Nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. All right, so last night on the NQ, we had a gap higher open, okay? Took us right up to basically this high from Friday. It sent us back to the BBC, and there's those couple of red candles that open and close below. And then we get that fast reversal, and it takes us right up to the long target. And then the zone, where we consolidate like we do 70% of the time. Okay. Now, right here, you had a bearish cross. That's when the red line gets below the green line. When you have a bearish cross that leads to an extended move like this did, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good resistance. And it was for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 30-minute candles. Then at 8:30, we got a burst of energy. It took us up almost to Friday's high. See, this was Friday's high. Now, I already gave you the reason why the NQ made that rally. It's on that chip news, okay? Now, this high on Friday was 274. Today's high was 266. So we failed to take out that high. That's a sign of weakness. And look what happened. Price drops, trades through the BBC. It's now retraced back all the way to the long target and basically last week's zone. Right there, where blue turned to red, we'll call it 26,180. That's potential resistance. 235, potential resistance. 265, potential resistance. Now, if things roll over, you got potential support right here, right here, right here, and then Friday's low right here. Crude, this is the one I had to reissue the long side because it gapped all the way up almost to the CTA long target, so I adjusted it. But apparently the high was already in. Come on. Okay. So, crude had the big gap higher open. It actually took out Friday's high, okay? But it closed, what price did we close at on that opening candle? We closed at 61.38. The high Friday was 61.38. Now, you can call it coincidence, you can call it market structure, call it whatever you want, but that's what happened. So we retrace to the BBC, but we don't quite get there. So we attempt another high, and this time we actually take out the opening. The opening high was 38, right? No, 48. Yeah. This over here was the 38. We closed at 38 on that opening candle. So then we put in a high here at 50. And then we get below the BBC, we get below the weekly trading zone. Find support here, not a spot I would have chosen to be support, but I don't control the market. Buyers came in. We get a pullback to the BBC. Pullback held. And that took us down almost to the short target. Missed it by a little bit. We got the 60-foot. We missed it by 4 ticks. That bounces us up to the BBC and the zone. Resistance, which sends us back down to support. And if you see that little wick there, zone from last week, the zone was 50/55. Okay. We hit it. And then we caught a nice rally. But the rally did not take out this high. Another sign of weakness. And all these wicks sticking up in the air, that's a sign of weakness. Look at the step line, it's starting to angle to the right. If it gets on the right side of blue and climbing, then you should expect a retracement back to the BBC. Same thing over and over. Right here. Step line crosses to the right side of blue and climbing. What do you get? Pull back to the BBC. Happens over and over again and again. Gold. Gold took a dive last night and hit the short target by 7 o'clock. This was the opening candle. So we did have a bit of a gap lower open. We're below the BBC, so we're expecting lower prices. Okay. So this candle right here opened at, we'll call it 4,004. $1,600 per contract traded in that 130-minute candle. In the next candle, we straddled the short target, okay, which was based off this low from Friday. We consolidate. Support sends us to resistance. We overcome resistance. The pullback holds. We make a run at the long target. But we only get to here. See this high from Friday? Right here. Which sends us back to the BBC, back to the zone. Zone's 4014/4015. Then we make another run at the long target, but we don't quite get there. And we're just been kind of flat. We're below the BBC. We got red and falling overhead. That would suggest lower prices. Okay. Got to take out this low here. Got to get below 4,004. But you should be expecting potential support at 39.98. Just remember, a $1 move, okay, from 4016 to 4015, that's $100 per contract traded. So you only need a $1 move in gold to get your goal for the day. A $1 move in crude is worth $1,000 per contract traded. A $1 move in silver is worth $5,000 per contract traded. And that's the last market on our agenda. Silver opened and dropped to the short target pretty quick. Now you only need 2 pennies in silver to get your goal for the day. So here's the opening candle. We dropped to the short target. We spiked it a few times. Then we get above the BBC. We make a run all the way up to the long target. This high fails to take out this high from Friday. Now you got to look for lower prices. So where the market finds support? At the weekly trading zone. Support sends us up to resistance at the BBC. We overcome the BBC and we hit the long target once, twice, 3 times. Remember, you only need 2 pennies to get your goal for the day. And then at 10 o'clock this morning. Yikes. Now we've bounced up into red and falling. So looks like lower prices are in order for the silver. You got potential support, of course, at this low, and then the zone, and then this low right here, 47.83, 47.80, and then 47.77, and then the zone. But keep in mind there are new zones out already. So one last look at the daily. We got a doji, an inside day. We do have a green body. We'll see how we close for the session. To become a member, email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. Let her know you want to become a member. She'll send you the information you need to get signed up. Once you're all signed up, she'll send you a ton of information. Some of it, you won't know what it is. You won't know what to do with it. Don't worry about it. You're going to need it as you learn how to trade. Okay? So create a folder in your email client. And everything she sends you, just put it in that folder. This way you always know where it is, because we've sent out an awful lot of these welcome packages and we know what a new person needs. So we just send it to you all at once. This way, if you're working in the middle of the night or over a weekend or on a holiday and the three of us aren't around, you got what you need. It's in that folder. Just make sure every email she sends you, you drag it into that folder. All right. Now, once you're all signed up and an official passport holder, you're going to get 2 hours of live training every trading day. It's an interactive environment. On top of 2 hours of live training, you get private one-on-one mentoring. No extra charge. All you got to do is ask. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder, are fluid across all markets, all time frames. What I mean by that is this isn't just a futures thing. The same strategy, the same indicators. You trade stocks, of course futures, crypto, Forex, ETFs. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. Just as I showed you today and show you every day, from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance. That's why it's so important you learn how to read a chart so you know where to anticipate resistance, to anticipate support, so you aren't flying blind. And as a passport holder, you'll get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock, which teach you how to read the chart. You get the concierge trade alerts the second they're published each evening, typically 5 minutes ahead of the Globex open. Every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you get the new weekly trading zones. And every Thursday night, you're able to attend the members-only workshop. Last but not least, as a passport holder, you get the golden keys that open all the private channels in Telegram. We got public channels, we got private channels. Once you become a member, you'll have access to everything. Everything a trader needs. All under one roof. One low price. How low? $5,000. $49.97 to be exact. Now, when you think back over all the time and treasure you've spent trying to learn how to trade, you've bought indicators, you've bought oscillators, you've bought quote-unquote predictive tools, you've sat in rooms with grumpy gurus. You know, we've all been through it. Okay? Many of you suffer from battered trader syndrome. You've been lied to, stole from. Well, guess what? It's the dawn of a new day. You can actually become a member and have round-the-clock support. A lot of places they They pass off these indicators to you in a PDF that explains how to use them, and that's it. If you need some help, man, maybe they have a support desk where you fill out some support ticket, and then maybe in 48 to 72 hours, somebody gets back with you. You can reach us anytime. True story. It really is a good deal. It's everything you need, all under one roof, one low price, around-the-clock support. All right, let's wrap it up with our good word for today. How your faith can produce results. Abraham's faith and his actions were working together. James 2:22. You see, faith without works is dead. And you say, well, I thought being saved didn't have anything to do with works. You're right. But see, once you become a believer and you're filled with the Holy Spirit, with God living on the inside of you, you just instinctively, naturally want to do good things and make the world a better place. If you really believe God's word concerning your situation, if you really believed it, you know what your situation is. I don't. You've prayed about it, and you're hoping God will do something. What if you actually believed it was already a done deal? Would you act differently if you went from hoping to believing? Saying you believe is just the beginning. Activating your faith means preparing for the answer to arrive. Ask yourself, if I really expected an answer to my prayers, how would I prepare for its arrival? In Scripture, Jesus gave his disciples this parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man planted in his field. When it grows, it becomes a tree. Matthew 13:31. The farmer may sincerely believe he can produce a mustard tree. But nothing happens until he chooses the location, prepares the soil, plants the seed, and continually waters it. Once he does all those things, he can actively watch for its appearance. So where do you start? Number one, pray for wisdom to make the right decisions. See James 1:5. Number two, plan your work and work your plan. Aimless, passive waiting for things to materialize without thoughtful, active involvement will prove disappointing and fruitless. God uses you as his partner. We are laborers together with God. 1 Corinthians 3:9. And number three, break your plan into small, accomplishable action steps. Number four, don't wait for the fear to go or the faith to grow. Be prepared to take calculated, productive risks. Feel the fear and do it anyhow. Number five, start thanking God even before you can see the answer. And if you should miss the bullseye, remember the Revolutionary War's militia's response. Ready, aim, fire. Adjust your aim and fire again. Abraham's faith and his actions were working together. That was true thousands of years ago, and it's still the Bible's formula for success today. And that's our good word for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.